All right, it's Monday, August 30th. Hurricane Ida doesn't impact my area. My area is Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, in the USA. So we did not get hit. We did not have winds or anything. However, there is a gentleman who shows up on here from the U.S. Coast Guard, which I thought was really interesting as a crossover. Because he's official and he's about triage, because I'm curious at a federal and emergency level of I'm trying to figure out what a U.S. is, because people use it conveniently in different ways. What America is, since there's three Americas, there's North, Central, and South America. Then I see Kanye West came on today, something about Universal Records put out a song, something about Jailhouse from him. They're talking homophobic. I'm like, homophobic? Are they talking about homophobic? Like, you hate your homeland kind of a thing? Or, because, I mean, these people, like, not necessarily just Kanye West, I just mean, like, the humans in general. Because they congregate in these small clusters and then confuse the heck out of, like, the authority. And it makes it hard to actually do rescue for, like, important stuff. So if, like, high advanced weaponry or weaponizing the cell phone towers was the actuality in the future, why would this gentleman by the name of Captain something or other, apparently his unit in U.S. Coast Guard goes by Captain, and I don't really know their word tree of acceptable for respectable in English, because I don't have access to anything respectable in my day-to-day life. I just have a Lewis and a Linda, and they're not really useful. I'm trying to piece the world together from a spotlight machine and what you all throw at me and what I find somewhat acceptable and what I find somewhat respectable. So this captain gentleman says they work in a triage fashion. Fair enough. So if I was going to be a victim of high power cell phone towers, since they lost in New York some form of governance over who owns the lines and who owns the power grid, at what point, I mean, I've been affected and I've been hurt several times. At what point does the U.S. Coast Guard type in an emergency tree, since you guys are the first responders on a hurricane? So if you took that hybrid situation, I wouldn't even know who would be in charge of the emergency management of an electric grid and high power cell phone towers to protect people like myself in a changing demographical climate. That's not my fault either. But in New York, they seem to use the U.S. court system like they've weaponized the U.S. court system. They've used litigation to lock up the helpful sort at FEMA and so on and so forth. So this way, time just dilates and drags on, and I really feel I'm like the 43-year-old that got left in the field, like just waiting, and like you forgot I needed triage, and you're like, you went through like a 36-hour period and you just couldn't take anymore. You're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna head home and we'll just leave it for the next crew, knowing there's no next crew. That's what this feels like. Feels like I've been dragged behind the horse cart for 43 years, and just like, at any point, like my skin's coming off, like, anybody gonna wake up and like go, you know what, maybe this kid needs a little help? Just saying. She might be useful, like she might know something and help us out, you know?
Month, we'll see another 4 to 8 inches of rain. Deadly flooding is possible for the next 3 to 4 days.
All right, Jeff, thank you.
Captain Chris Holzer is the commanding officer of the Coast Guard Aviation Training Center in Mobile, Alabama. That is one of the main sites where the Coast Guard is launching aircraft for its response to Hurricane Ida.
So in Mobile, Alabama, the state of Alabama, in this theoretical USA, where I'm UZZA, as the cat of Russia, because it says Kataruza. It's just in the letters in my name. I can't help that. There is a gentleman who's respectable. He's trained, but apparently he's hours away in something called Mobile, Alabama. And apparently they don't make it up to New York very often, or have a reason to make it up to New York. But I would ask him if he would be so kind on his schedule of having important contacts, since I don't have any, if you could bring it up about this. They call it, or somebody referenced it as Havana syndrome. I don't know if that's like a thing, and like now they've put a name on it, and like people know about this kind of thing. It seems like the humans are not so quick or useful in protecting people. They're more concerned with advancing more painful process than actually working through some kind of helpful something or other. Also, I saw under ATIP, ATIP, oh, my knee's cracking, and UAP and UFO, I saw yesterday that they had some unexplained phenomenon with a black hole just opening up in the human's atmosphere, but they can't seem to describe it or figure out what it is or what to do with it, right? Yeah, see, that's time and space ripping apart, since you have these quiet children on computers with social anxiety and social distortion, like looking for ways to purposely like eradicate certain sections of the population. By the way, heads up, your family's in there as well as my own, because in New York we're the first ones that seem to be breaking. I don't see as many of the other sections of the population breaking. I see my people breaking and disappearing, and I see them being replaced with the problem children.
Hurricane Ida. Captain Holzer, good morning to you. What can you tell us this morning about the search and rescue plan as we see daylight reaching Louisiana?
Now, this is for a
Hey,
hurricane.
good morning, Tony. First, thanks to you and your team for your focus on this. And of course, our hearts go out to everybody in the Gulf Coast right now. We have planned a massive response to Hurricane Ida, and it actually started a couple days ago. We started flowing forces here to the Mobile area on the east of the storm and to the Houston area on the west of the storm. And the goal was, as soon as storm passes, we're going to launch the first of a wave of aircraft to go into the operating area from the east. And that wave will include airplanes and helicopters, all fitted for search and rescue. They'll be surveying the New Orleans and the western area for habitability for anybody that's in distress. And then, of course, looking at the waterways, if there's any environmental pollution or any maritime disaster that we need to take care of.
What concerns you most as you begin to send aircraft into the aftermath?
Well, first and foremost, we are accepting risk when we take off pre-dawn in the storm with high winds, but that's acceptable risk for our air crews because we know that there are people that are in need on the Gulf Coast right now. And then the concern becomes, how big is this event? Is this a manageable event that we can call out each individual rescue? Or is it an event where we just need to keep sending assets as quick as we can to keep pulling people off of rooftops, from their homes, that type of thing?
Well, once that initial survey of the damage and the needs is done, how does the Coast Guard prioritize pickups?
Everybody should be told to call 911 because all of our federal partners are working together to triage where's the most need. And that's what will surge our assets so that we can get to the people in the right amount of time. And whether that's people in boats, in helicopters, or even directing people where to go.
You're in Alabama. The damage from Ida, we know, will be across multiple states. How are you coordinating with local officials and state officials to maximize what you have to offer there?
So one of the things that the Coast Guard does is that we embed officers in all of the state, local, and federal emergency operations center so that we've got tremendous unity of effort. One of the first things that I did at my 700-person base is that I sent people out to all of those different organizations, and everywhere along the Coast Guard that has happened as well, so that we can all respond together.
All right, Captain Chris Holzer, commanding officer of the Coast Guard Aviation Training Center in Mobile, Alabama, and just minutes away from takeoff and daylight down there on the Gulf Coast. Captain, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John.
We have other news this morning, including the final U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. It is now just hours away. Now, this could be the most dangerous phase yet. Rockets were fired toward the Kabul airport overnight after a U.S. drone strike hit a vehicle loaded with explosives. 2 suspected ISIS members were killed there. The attempted attacks are not stopping flights from the...
So now, it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. It's Nicole Cataruza. It's star 1978, star 8378. It's August 30th, 2021. Now, my question is, with this 700 unit, I saw 700 Club the other day. I don't see, like, when I was growing up, in isolation, no less, because I didn't grow up in New York City. I was here until I was 5 or 6, and then they moved me, but I was inside this exact apartment, not much exposure to the outside. Like, Lynn and Lou would take me to a city park for a few hours. Normally, the derelict public would push me around and whatever, and then I would come home. But that was limited exposure with this new subgroup of New Yorkers. And then they moved me out to Long Island in Cold Spring Harbor, where it was held in the house by myself, because I'm an only child with the 2 of them, and limited public exposure. But there was no National Guard. Like, I hear the humans in New York, they talk about this thing. They say National Guard. I don't even know what the definition. The New York City or the New York State public school system did not teach what a National Guard is, what it looks like. Never even heard the word. There was no National Guardsmen that actually came to visit, in a sense of to explain, to teach, I mean, like, there was nothing in the Cold Spring Harbor and Lloyd Harbor school system that was National Guard related or Royal Guard related. Both of them were totally derelict of responsibility for the natives of what's here. I didn't hear National Guard until Donna Bin came to work for me in my house, and she mentioned it, and then she was mentioning placing drugs in my house to get me in trouble, and I'm like, what? I was like, Donna, I'm a little confused by this I mean, like, she totally threw me off. I had just come back from an appointment, and the nanny was there with Alexander, and I'm like, and then she was asking me about crack. And I'm like, I don't know, what is that? She's like, it's a drug. And I'm like, all right, Donna. I was like, now you're confusing me, because this isn't my lifestyle. I haven't been exposed to this level of, I don't even know what word to use on it. I'm like, this is a really difficult conversation for me, Donna. Like, why are you going down this route? Because again, like, my exposure to this stuff, I'm like, I'm not your level of human, I guess. I was like, but not in like a judgy kind of a way, just like why are you bringing that into my life? And what, it was weird. And I said as much. But there was, there's no access or even a semblance. There's a U.S. court system, there's a Supreme Court, there's a federal court. I have no idea what the hell any of that means, because they haven't done any job even attempting to educate me or the kids that I grew up with about what that system entails. I mean, like, go after law? For what? Like, what are you fighting? I mean, seriously, what do you need law for if you're law-abiding citizens and there's some set social order? But again, in here seems to be no social order whatsoever. I mean, even the lines and the hypotheticals and theoreticals to get behind, they don't work. There's no voting, there's no clubs, there's no access to anything. People are like, call your congressman. What the hell's a congressman and how do you find one? I mean, like, you don't have a cell phone or a computer in 1980s, and you have no public education system as to what system when you were born in century 19, decade 7 plus 8 years, there was no system in place. I mean, Chamber of Commerce, like, I mean, a civic association, nothing was set up in Bayside area, Bayside, Queens. Nothing that was publicized, like door knockers, introduction, like sitting on the couch, getting to know someone. None of that exists. If at best, maybe it was mailers, but I don't even know because I wasn't able to check the mail. I couldn't read back in the 80s until I went to school. So it's really confusing how you people run stuff because nothing's ever been presented the way that you're running your social distortion to get whatever it is that now you're presenting on the TV, like as if it's real. So you all go to some court system and put in papers and beg or try to like bang each other with hammers for money for your survival. Like that's how you make your money, is that you take it from other people. Wow, that sounds like a really disgusting system. I would kill all of those humans. I don't think that that's the way that you should really set up a society. If you were given a stipend, you should be able to run your stipend. You shouldn't have these disgusting humans trying to come after you with guns, knives, and hammers to steal your whatever you're trying to run. So now I'm just confused how this society actually works and how they're getting away with it and lying to the bigger government somewhere else that might have a system that was set up properly and working and thinks for some reason New York has the same system because it might have been given the opportunity, but there's too many problem children and it's totally not the way that it was. If it was at all ever successful. Star 1978, Star 8378, Nicole Cateruza. It's August 30th, 2021.